Getting pretty dark, so I'm only 1 notch down on cute dessert. I've crocked this pot with charcoal, so on spot Cullen, and I'll take you down. So there you go. Crocked it with, use one of those shopping bags, those sort of papery shopping bags to actually crock it. Okay. Oh, it's okay. I'll add the eggs shortly before I pot it up, and then we'll see how it goes. I get the impression polystyrene perlite, fine polystyrene and sand 50-50 is okay. Now, since the sand seems to stick around the, even though I've moved it about, it's still sticking around the perlite, that maybe you want 1 part of fine perlite and 1 part of sand. In other words, the fine perlite is acting in a way like the polystyrene, but the sand grains are now going to be around the perlite rather than around the polystyrene in a way. So in other words, the ideal mixture at the moment for the fine stuff would be like fine intermediate, 1 part fine perlite, and it's associated 1 part of sand, and then 1 part of fine polystyrene with its 1 part of associated fine sand. So basically you end up with 2 parts of sand, 1 part fine poly, 1 part fine perlite. And then whether you want to add the balls or not, just to add volume, to add a bit more reductive flammable gas, help with infiltration of rain and things like that, I don't know. Whether you want to add the intermediate, you know, it's just a housing for the organism to grow in apparently. So, you know, do you really need a larger chunky, considering your roots have got to go down here, because you want the roots to go down, because the longer and the fatter the roots are, the more organism that can go into the roots. So you want the roots to be able to go all the way down to the pot. So in other words, you want the organism to grow all the way down the pot, and you want it to be ensheathed by the mycorrhizae all the way down the roots. So if you've got a Drosera binata, you know, you want an 80 centimetre growing size plant, as Darwin pointed out, you're probably going to have roots going down, a pot that's almost 1 metre deep, and so you want to get the organism to go all the way down to like the bottom of a dustbin, and you want the roots to go all the way down to the bottom of a dustbin. So, you know, it may not be a good idea to have big chunky bits of perlite getting in the way of root penetration getting down there, because you want to get the roots all the way down, you want the organism to grow all the way down through the soil mixture, and you want the roots to be totally ensheathed all the way down to the bottom of your dustbin or something like that. So anyway, that's just my idea at the moment. And the fact that the organism originally came from the charcoal, as far as we know, via the popcorn, that's how we first detected it. You can't really go against, and eventually that would just become damp like the other charcoal. And of course we did have the we do have the liverwort growing, well, sort of in proximity on the charcoal, so it's not damaging to liverworts, even though I'm not sure about this one here. That could be just because I put a little bit of fertiliser in there, and then liverworts just can't handle they're just not very salt tolerant, sort of thing, to a certain degree. But these plants seem to be just about getting there, sort of thing. Anyway, I've done the same sort of ratio in here as that one. The only difference is the physical properties of the mixture. As I said, all the sand grains seem to be around the perlite, that's another surprise. Well, that's probably why we had the initial surprise yesterday when the medium got wetter when we added the sand, because all the sand grains suddenly just went boom, straight round the perlite, and all the water that was either in the sand or associated with the perlite just sort of either got sucked out of the sand, or also sucked out of the perlite, and just became water on its own, basically. Okay, well that's about it. I can't really talk much more about this clip. It's getting pretty dark and murky, and as I said, what do they call them? The autumn crocuses are out. That's the sign basically when they get going, and when the plant at the front with its red berries gets to its reddest and most sucking, and that's when the profile is usually at the peak. That's a way of not having to keep going out to the bush to check, or applying out the front. It's just at its peak. The foliage will be at the peak. So, yeah. Anyway, as I said, I think this thing's got a phosphorus deficiency, and I think that's why all these tomato seedlings are just sitting there doing bugger all. They're just sort of in a satiated state, sort of thing, where sort of satisfied, but they're not really fattening up, they're not really growing, they're just sort of in a stasis sort of state, And the same with the thing. It's not unhealthy, but it's just not doing anything, because I think it's so that would beg the question, if these are supposed to be nutrient poor plants, and if they need phosphorus to grow, you can't really call them nutrient poor plants. In a way, it's just sort of, everything is wrong with these things. That's what I'm saying, wrong, wrong ideas about the soil, wrong ideas about their nutrition, wrong ideas about when they probably get their nutrition during the years. And I think that basically the way they work is they fatten their roots during the cool months, and all the organism goes into the roots, and it's sheathed by mycorrhizae, and all their growth comes from that in the following season. So they're not actually growing in the season, they're actually all their nutrition is being stored in the fallow time, and all that new growth in the following season comes from the season before, basically the year before.